Okay, so History 1302 students, this is the long-awaited essay brief. I'm hoping you watch this before you engage with the test. Of course, the test will have a multiple choice component and it will have an essay component. And so you've been given the prompts ahead of time. One of the things that I've observed is that novice college students tend to struggle with essays. The key feature of your essay is to make sure that you've answered all of the prompts. So before you take the test, one of the things you want to do is organize your thoughts in such a way that you answer the totality of the prompt. And so typically what you're going to be dealing with is, and I'm going to enable editing. Here we go. Is that your standard essay is very formulaic. What you typically will actually do is when you organize an essay, you bullet point your body paragraphs. You use your body paragraphs to write your intro and conclusion. And so you don't really start at the beginning and end at the end. That's how you write it. But when you're actually pre-writing it, and so the first thing you want to do is you want to pre-write before you free write. Okay, so that's sort of your first rule. And so in the pre-writing, you organize your essay by bullet pointing your body paragraphs, and then you use those bullets to provide the appropriate levels of detail for your essay. And so in that process of bullet pointing your body paragraph, you want to look at the original prompt and you kind of want to deal with that. And what you typically want to look at is words in a series. So the first question, explain how wartime devastation set in motion a chain of events that permanently altered the white yeomanry's independent way of life, leading to what they considered a loss of freedom. This is specifically talking about the white yeoman in the South. Okay, so probably the first thing you want to talk about is your first body paragraph is going to be on the devastation that was referenced in the beginning of chapter 15. And so you want to get into the loss of life, loss of property, and again, and loss of capital / prestige. Okay. So in order to talk about the chain of events set in mind by the wartime devastation, you need to talk about the wartime devastation. Then you look at the other parts in the chain of events. Okay, so you can talk about the occupation. You can talk about devaluation of property. And again, you look up the names, dates, places, and details. And then you look at transitions in agriculture. And then for part C, you probably want to talk about the loss of freedom. Well, specifically, you want to look at the transition from yeomanry, meaning the where a person owns their land and works the land, to croplands, where the changes in agriculture force these yeomen to bet against their farms to take out loans for seed and to increase production and whatnot. And then you actually list the specifics on the loss of land ownership to the elites. Now, again, you want to fluff this up with names, dates, places, and details that show me that you can command the details and understood the text. Okay, now, again, once you have that, then you have what you need to actually write your body paragraphs. And since you're using a word processor, since you're typing this, you can actually write your body paragraphs first and then write your introduction and conclusion. If you're doing it by hand, okay, you outline it by hand. You outline it and then you write your intro, then you write your body paragraph, then you write your conclusion. But if you've outlined ahead of time, you write better. Okay, So the next question is, why did radical Republicans believe Andrew Johnson would support their agenda? Why was Johnson unable to lend his support to the Civil Rights Act of 1866 or to the 14th Amendment? Okay. So you probably want to break this up. Okay. First, so embedded in this, you have two listed questions, and you can either divide it into 2 or 3 body paragraphs. Okay. So the first question is, and again, when you're writing these essays, you're writing it for a person who's literate, but not necessarily someone who's read in on the course. And so one of the things you want to define is, well, what is the radical Republican agenda? What was Johnson's agenda? How did his reconstruction vary from the agenda that the radical Republicans put forward? I would have actually started with Johnson's agenda first chronologically, and you can switch those around. You just tell the person what's going on, and you can get into the specifics of opposition to the Civil Rights Act of 66 and the 14th Amendment. And what you probably want to do in addition to that is you probably want to go into the all right, don't worry about the fact that this, whatever. The Republican response, that would be your Command of the Army Act, your Tenure of Office Act, and then, of course, the impeachment. All right, this is setting me. There we go. And you have the Republican response, the Tenure of Office Act, the Command of the Army Act, and then, of course, the impeachment. And we dealt with the impeachment a lot, so if you can roll it in, that's great. Next question, describe how the Industrial Revolution created new forms for some workers while restricting the freedoms of others. How did industrialization affect all workers? Be careful not to generalize. And so when it says be careful not to generalize, that's kind of really important. So one of the things you have to distinguish is new forms of freedom for some workers and not others. So I'd probably start with, you need to delineate the type of works there are. So you probably want to get into skilled industrial work versus unskilled industrial work. Pardon my phone. You can even get into agricultural work. So in other words, or you can get into specific, or you can even get into specific industries. And so one of the things that you want to do is get into how the industrialization changed the plight for people in different sectors. Okay, now in number 4, it said compare the methods and motives of the various social reformers active in the Gilded Age. How did efforts of thinkers such as George, Grunland, and Bellamy differ from those of social gospel reformers of that period? Were any of these approaches more successful than others? Why or why not? Okay. So what you probably want to do is, and there are 2 ways of doing this, because one of the things you see in this, and there's a lot to unpack here, you've got motives and methods, and then you've got the thinkers versus the Protestant and social gospel reformers. Okay. There are two ways of doing this. You can do either one. I tend to like the 3x2 rather than the 2x3. And then the other thing that it even asks for is success. So one of the things that you can do is you can look at motives, methods, success. Okay. And for some reason, my auto format is not cooperating, but whatever. Here we go. So you can go motives, methods, success. And within that, you have one paragraph on motives. So you go thinkers, social gospel, thinkers, social gospel, thinkers, social gospel. That's one way to do it. The other way you can do it is you go, hang on, where'd it go? Oh, it's way down here. Thinkers, you go motives, methods, success, social gospel, motives, methods, success. So you can do two body paragraphs on three axes of analysis, or you can do three axes of analysis across the two things. You can do it either way. You just need to tell the audience where you're going in the intro and the conclusion. So by 1900, who is entitled to enjoy the full blessings of liberty? Be sure to include blacks, women, labor, immigrants, and colonial subjects. They've kind of already told you. Anytime you have words in a series, they're already telling you how they want you to lay it out. So you pretty much can follow the prompt. Okay. All right. So since it goes, okay. So basically, by 1900, what had happened to the African American population? Okay, you have abolition, suffrage, and then get into the shifting economics. Women, greater social participation, but they're not voting yet. Labor, you get into unions and collective bargaining. And again, names, dates, places, and details. You also want to get into, the strikes and the violence. And then, can I not spell? There we go. Immigrants. Who's coming? How are they restricted? And then the colonial subjects. Which colonies? When? How governed? So anytime you have words in a series, that pretty much tells you where you're going with these things. Last one, the emergence of the United States as an imperial power has inspired much debate among Americans. Briefly, okay, that's just, okay. Sometimes they like to do this on prompts. They'll start with a statement that doesn't actually have it. I mean, it contextualizes the question, but it's actually bloody useless. So I don't find that to be very at all interesting. So you can, I mean, maybe if you roll it in the intro, but beyond that, okay. So, okay, that actually isn't that great. Here we go. So briefly explain how the United States arrived at this status and how opponents and supporters of imperialism responded to the change. Okay. So your first body paragraph is, where'd it go? How did the United States arrive at this status? Okay, the Spanish-American War, the annexation of Hawaii, and a few other things. How did opponents of imperialism respond to the change? How did supporters of imperialism respond to the change? And then, of course, you have your intro and your conclusion. So, again, pick the essay that you feel the most comfortable with. Be sure that you elaborate on the appropriate level of detail. Fundamentally, the purpose of the essay is, can you analyze and communicate detail? Okay, your multiple choice portion shows me you know what the facts are. The essay shows me what the facts mean. So I hope this has been useful. After your test, after I get the test scores, we'll start doing academic interviews in Zoom. We'll start scheduling those out. Remember, that is, depending on the course, 5 to 10% of your grade. And so I'm hoping we can take your first essay test and refine that and help you become a better writer and a better college student. And with that, I hope you have a pleasant evening.